for 2 days, mandapa for one full day, and gopura and other structure for 1 day. And we had done some small exercises on identifying the components and analyzing it. And I am sure that by this time you are ready, and then you will be able to appreciate the nuances of Tamil Nadu temple. And when I say something like Griva or Karnakuta or this one, I am sure people will not be blinking. And before I say, they themselves will be able to identify and see some of the differences. So today we are going to cover the trend-setting temples of Pallavas, the innovations. So today's program will start with a step back and say why Tamil Nadu is a land called a land of temples. Okay, so from there we will see how the various dynasties contributed to the development of the temple, and then now focus on what are the activities by early Pallava and Pandya kings. Then I've been saying repeatedly that Malai is a temple university where you see anything and everything related to temples there. So we will see some expansion of this statement and see why you should visit Malai whenever you are coming to Chennai. So the cave mandavas, the monolithic rathas, the structural temples. In addition to that, there are a lot of sculptures and other beauties. Since it is out of scope for this training, I am not covering them. Whatever I am covering about Malay is only half or 1/3 of the beautiful things. Then we talk about some of the broad temples. When I say earlier temples were like meter gauge, these are broad gauge temples. Right? And then Ashtanga type of stacked vimanas. Instead of having one temple, see here the temple we see, it's not like an ordinary temple. Inside we have 3 sanctums stacked one above other. So we'll see what is that is about. Then finally, we will talk about how the temple building from the engineering perspective, the innovations developed, what all Pallava has done up to that point, and then how Cholas and others took it to the next level. We will see in tomorrow's program. This is a scope. I'll try to rush it, but I think since you have video, you will be able to absorb some of it at a later part of time also. So this scope, next 2 days, the focus will be on the Pallava, Chera Chola Pandyas, and Vijayanagaras and Hoysalas, who contributed to the major temple development in Tamil Nadu. What you see is the royal emblem of Cholas during Rajendra Chola period, where he has conquered almost all the countries. So this is the lion, and this is the Pandya fish, and this is a Chalukya, and a lot of others. The emblems are there, and he becomes a Chakravarti. So the Chakravarti emblem is also there. So first, let us see why Tamil Nadu is called the land of temples. Okay. If you see the top 10 tallest gopurams from the earlier period up to the current, if you see the tallest gopurams, which are constructed around some 10-15 years ago, up to 10-15 years ago, you see that except one, the Murudeshwara temple, almost all the large ones are in Tamil Nadu. Okay, this is one perspective. Murudeshwara is equal to the top, but it is a pure concrete, 24 sala kind of gopura, okay, and which has got two lifts, electric lifts operating in between, where people can go by lift up to the top and see. Then let us see the Vimanas. If you see the tallest Vimanas, top 4 of the 10 are in Tamil Nadu. The Chaturbhuj in Jhansi takes a cake, and then Kashi Vishwanath is a fairly new addition. And other than that, the rest are all old. So if you see this, all the big temples are here all around. So the grand exceptions are the great temples of Kalinga, the Puri Jagannath, Lingaraja, and then Konark, and the great Kandariya Mahadeva temple in Khajuraho. So this is some of the topmost Vimanas. When I say in terms of area, the complexes, okay, the largest temple complex in worship in India is again Sri Lankan takes the cake, huge. It has got a town bus running in 6th and 7th program, and it's a huge campus, and then walled by this one. So see, if you go to Cambodia and other things, we got far more larger Hindu temples, but some of them are converted into Buddhist and maybe not in worship. But in India, these are the big ones. If you see the 6 are in Tamil Nadu itself. And if you see the many, Dakshineshwar and Akshardham, Chhatarpur, all these are new ones. Big ones are new ones, not the old ones, very recent ones. Dakshineshwar little later. Belur Math is little older, but if you see Akshardham, Chhatarpur and other things are fairly recent. If you see that from 9th to 10th or to the 15th, 16th century itself, the temples have expanded into a grand complexes and they have become temple cities. Now let us see some data. ASA monuments in Tamil Nadu is 251. If you see the HRNC, Hindu religious and then cultural establishment, this is the organization which handles the temples in Tamil Nadu. They have a temple count of around 44,000, out of which more than 100 years old. Heritage temples are around 3,500. The rest are less than 100 years old. So much of old temples. So if you take a spot shot of how a similar situation happens, Tamil Nadu 44,000, Karnataka 28, AP from Telangana 38, and then Kerala, Karnataka 34, Maharashtra 45, Odisha. So if you count below Vindhyas, there is around 200,000 temples available in the southern side. How is it possible? Is that unlike northern India, not much invasion moved into south because of Vindhyas. So whatever invasion was coming from the side, either from Maharashtra side or from the Orissa coast side. Beyond that, the direct invasion from north was very rare, except on the 13th, 14th century. If you see Tamil Nadu, that is covered by the Eastern Ghats. Almost the Tamil Nadu border is on Eastern Ghats. So that means that there are only 3 major passes into Tamil Nadu. And during Chola period and other things, they were guarded and primary territories. So it was very difficult to penetrate into Tamil Nadu. So except 2 occasions where 4th to 5th century, 4th to 6th century, Kalapiras ruled Tamil Nadu. And during 13th to 14th century half, there was some period Muslim invasion and Muslim. The rest of the period, it was ruled by Hindu kings only, no complications. And then whatever wars happened, they killed people and their temples were left largely undamaged. So that accounts for a great amount of temples. And if you see the Tamil Nadu, interestingly, per 3 square kilometer, you have one temple. And if you convert into number terms, in terms of population, for every 1,000 or 1,200 persons, there is one temple. That means you have a apartment complex of around 300 apartments, and that counts around 1,000 people. That itself is eligible for a temple as per the average. So that is the density of temples in Tamil Nadu. So now we understand why Tamil Nadu is called the land of temples. So how it became possible? So this is where the continuous contribution from dynasties. Pallavas did a very strong foundation, and Cholas took it to the next level in engineering, and later Pandyas and Nayakas expanded the temple to a grand area and converted them into temple cities. So if you see, let us see the history one by one. So between 300 BC to 500 Sangam period, kings and then Kalabras. So most of the temples were wood, mortar, brick temples were there, which we are not able to see primarily because that has been either been decayed or destroyed or burnt out or reconstructed during later time by Cholas. Then from 6th, 7th century to 10th century, where we had early Pallavas and Pandyas ruling, with Cholas slowly coming up. The development was more in cut-in caves, cut-in monoliths and structured rock temples. That is what happened during the Pallava and Pandya period. Later on, imperial Cholas took it to the next level. Their value addition was a lot of ornamentation in the wall and in the gopuras, and then grand vimanas, tall vimanas, and convert all the old temples into granite structures. So they did excellent work in conversion. Only because of them, we are able to see a lot of old temples in Tamil Nadu, primarily because during that time, everything was converted into stone. Even in small villages, the temples have been converted. Then later Pandyas, they had no option in vimanas and experimentation, so they started focusing on mandapas, prakaras, and gopuras. But again, this was a fairly brief period and for not a long period. Later on, the Vijayanagaras handled for next 300 years. They took the gopuras to a grand level, and their contribution in wide mandapas and innovation in pillars and other things are fantastic. Later on, after 16th-17th period, the Nayakas and Nagaratars are the trader communities which were in the Trichy, Madurai, in between belt. They were very philanthropic. They contributed to a fair amount of temple building. So the normal temples were expanded with more and more prakaras, and then walls were put down, and then they become big temple cities. So 1,000-pillar mandabas were built, and then large temple tanks were constructed there. So somebody was saying about Mannargudi Rajagopala temple, where you have a big temple pond, which is called Haritra Nadi, largest temple tank. Now, having seen how the development happened through the dynasties, let us drill down into focus on the first period, early Pallavas and Pandyas, because prior to this, we have no solid physical evidence. Mostly it is literary and then indirect inferences to ballads. So, but there were enough documentation and in diagrams and in sculptures saying that temples were there, agamas were there, structures were there, but most of them were in wood, brick and mortar. And we see the images and the earlier rock temples were replicas of this. So during this period, Pallavas were ruling this area, bulk of this one, and then the only competitor for them was Pandyas. Cholas were no longer there. They were vassals here. And then the major competitors, they were frequently fighting with Chalukyas. And then Vengi, they were sometimes friendly, sometimes not friendly. And then they had tie-up with Gangas who were supporting both. So this is a political scenario there. Cheras had a big chunk. So this is the political area. And then they focused bulk of their development around Kanchi and to a great extent around their border between Pandya, that is in the Pudukkottai area. If you see the early Pallava Pandya evolution of temples, you can split up into 5 major phases. Okay, the first phase was during Mahendra Pallava, and so the focus was more on cut-in caves. Even though cut-in caves started developing in 1st century BCE from Ashoka and other periods, for that to come and get implemented here, it took another 600 years. So only by late 6th century, slowly the northern Tamil Nadu and the southern Andhra period, we started developing a lot of cave temples, and Mahendra was very instrumental in structuring this. So temples without wood, metal and mortar. So he says that I did the first temple. And however, this is for the region. So parallelly, Pandyas were also doing similar work in their region. So again, the catch is they are restricted to available hillocks, and the Mandagapattu is the earlier one from the Pallava side. The next phase is that it's a unique one where in Mahabalipuram, they found small hillocks, and then they converted this complex into a single block of stone. And then temples out of that. So they carved beautiful temples out of it. So this entire collection of temples is from one single block of stone which has been carved out into individual temples. Apart from Mahabalipuram, nowhere else it happened except in Vettuvan Koil in Pandya region. The next interesting thing is the structural rock temples, where from the monolithic temples, instead of going to the mountains or to the hillocks, they started identifying the techniques of creating small manageable bricks out of rock and then stacking it or shaping them into whatever desired contour. They started building temples. So again, this was the model, the Shore temple. Before that, Koram was the first temple built in structural, which is available to us. But the complete one and the most structured one is the Malay Rock temple, Shore temple. So that is a model which has not changed much throughout the development of Tamil Nadu phase. Later on, the another interesting phase was the Ashtanga Vimanas. Primarily, instead of having one sanctum here in the Grand Temple, they started stacking multiple sanctums one top of other. So the concept of apartments or your multi-story buildings is not a new concept. Gods were living in apartments from 7th or 8th century onwards. So finally, these Ashtanga Vimanas also get extended into wider broad gauge type of an Ashtanga Vimanas with extension, with the multi-tier and multi-shrine. This contains 9 shrines in the entire temple, 3 vertical and the rest of them horizontal. So in first tala, 1 central and 3 around it, and second tala, 1 central and 3 around it, and third tala, only 1. So this is how during Pallava Pandya period up to 9th century, this is how the development happened. So we will see each and every phase briefly for 1 or 2 slides and then move over to the next level. So cave mandabas, like I said earlier, Mahendra period was an instrumental period in implementing multiple cave temples around Tonde Mandalam, which is the northern Tamil Nadu area. and up to, so the focus is on three major segments around Kanchipuram and around Pudukkottai area and around Tiruvannamalai area. So these are the three major areas where a lot of boulders and other things there. And this is where the bulk of the cave mandabas were concentrated. So we will see there are many, and we will see some significant ones and see how the architecture started developing in each of them in a detailed way. So there is sculptural, there is inscriptional things. We are not going into that in this section. So we had Mandagapattu, Lakshadayana, Mahendravadi caves, Vishnugraham, and then Mamundur multiple caves, and Pallavaram, it is a Darga, and then Dalavanur Chatrumaleswaram, and we have Vilapakam Jaina caves. So you see the key one in Mandagapattu, this here he says that there is an inscription here where he says that without wood mortar and bricks, Mahendra has built a temple for Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. So that means that he is trying to replicate the temple designs which are available there in the earlier time in the same way. That means that this kind of structures were available earlier in wood and mortar. So if you see this, there are two Dwarapalakas, and then the pillars are, this is called the standard Mahendra pillar, where you have two squares and then 8 facing between. This is a Vishnukanta type of thing, but popularly called Mahendra pillars. And then you have your corbel, yeah, just a slanting corbel with lines, like it is called Taranga Podika. So that is the basic one. You have two chambers, one open area, entry chambers, and sanctum inside. There is no embellishment, there is no hara, nothing, and then it's plain. If you see the next one in Mamundur, you have some more details, and then they are trying to do a Sandara type of activity inside it, and the cave is also wider. The third interesting thing is in Pallavaram in Chennai, near the Tirusulam one. So this is a 5-part cave identified for this. And during later Muslim occupation from 14th, 15th century onwards, this has been taken over, and then now this 5 Panchapandava caves inside where you say this has been converted into a dargah, and then it is under active worship. Next one is the Mahendravadi cave. This is a 3-part cave where they had taken a rock and tried to do a temple for Vishnu. However, it has stopped in the middle because of some crack developing. They have stopped the work in the middle and left it at that. Here you can see that they have tried to replicate the hara and embellishment, and they have already done the water drip. And beyond that, they have not worked it because of the crack. Next, we see Dalavanur Chatrumaleswaram temple. Here we see the pillars getting more ornamental, and you see medallions and pedestals coming here. You have a Magara Torna which is visible on this. Okay. Interestingly, your roof Prastara is also visible very clearly. Here, if you see the earlier ones, there is no Prastara clearly delineated. Here we see the Prastara coming up with the Nasikas, and then some amount of lines on the next level of Hara. And then we also see very clear Adhisthana getting developed. One of the other caves is this is supposed to be a Jaina cave. There they have cut 7 chambers. This is the longest and biggest cave. This is in Vilapakam. So this is how Pallava development in cave happened during Mahendra period. The grandest of them from the Pallava side is the Trichy Rock Fort. There we have two caves, one on the ground level, which is a Pandya cave of later period. On top, when you go just before we enter the Ganapati temple on top, you have a cave which is done by Pallava Mahendra. So this is the cave which talks about the Gangadhara panel, where he stylishly handles Ganga with one strand of hair on the left hand while standing in a stylish way. All our later period actors and Rajini and everything, before that, this kind of a style pose is there, even from 6th century. Interestingly, it has got a beautiful poem in Sanskrit and in Telugu, which highlights a double meaning poem where he praises the king as well as the Gangadhara, and then it also ridicules Ganga, saying that you have got two wives and still you are looking at the third wife as Kaveri. That kind of puns are there. Beautiful verses. There is a separate website for this. The lower cave is again a beautiful one, unique one with the beautiful pillars, but there is no inscription. This is a Pandya activity. See the well-developed pillars here, and then fantastic sculptures, and the Mukhamantapa of the sanctum with very complex pillars and beautiful prastara, and with Adhisthana and Sopana. Everything is there. When it comes to the Pandya caves were parallelly developed, and then they got a slightly different style. The one major difference for Pandya caves is that when you build the lingas, okay, in Pallava, the caves, either the paintings or drawings were worshipped at the point of time, and there were no lingams attached to the cave floor. Whereas in most of the Pandya caves, in Shiva temples, the linga is part of the main mother rock, like how in Badami and others they had done some of the temples. Maladipatti is one where there's a grand Vishnu temple. Again, they have covered the entrance of the cave. The idea is that it is very complex, and then it has got grand Vishnu statues inside of Narasimha and Sai Vishnu. In Vattakadai, there is a Narasimha temple. Just besides a Narasimha temple, there is a Ladan temple. This is for Muruga. It is a 3-part temple with 2-part stairways. Another interesting temple is the Aritapatti, which is famous for its sculptures and the artwork inside this. So this is again a 3-part temple with the 2 columns outside and 1 deeper entrance inside. One of the interesting temples which is attributed to Pandya or Pallava is a Kudmayan Malai. This is outside Pudukkottai. And there also there is a cave temple inside, which has been again built as a covered temple at a later point of time. Same in Kundakudi, there is a Murugan temple which you can see here. This is a Murugan temple, Lord Skanda. This is built on a mound of rock. On the bottom of the rock, probably when it was there during 5th, 7th, 8th centuries, the rock would have been there. There will be a small hillock on top with a small Muruga temple. And this was the major attraction. This was Grand Mandapa, and then it was carved into the rock with beautiful sculptures and 3 or 4 extensive caves inside. The final one is the Malayadi Kurichi, which is a well-developed temple with very good pillars and then artwork inside. If you see, it's a 3-part all the way up to this one. It looks like a normal temple, but it is again some amount of rock temple in the interiors. So this is how Pandya caves developed. Again, now we are coming to the grandest Pandya cave. It is in Thirumayam near Pudukottai. It is a hillock. On the side of a hillock, there is a Shiva temple as well as a Vishnu temple. This Vishnu temple is called Satyagirishwara temple. It has got a hexagon pond on top, and this is the background is the temple. Beautiful fort, and this has been one of the strategic forts for many centuries. Interestingly, if you go into the temple, it is not a normal temple, even if it looks like a grand normal temple. It is a cave temple inside. And then it contains, I'm sorry, by mistake I closed it. Give me a minute. Sorry for the disturbance, by mistake I pressed it and then it came up. So the other interesting aspect is the enclosed cave temples. You see many of the temples from outside, it looks like a normal temple, but if you see inside, if you go inside and if you are very, very sharp, then only you will notice that it is actually a cave temple, open cave temple on the side of a particular hillock. And then later on, it has been covered and expanded into a very grand temple. So one of the earlier examples, even during Mahendra Pallava period, is the Siyamangalam temple. If you see, this is the temple. The cave temple is somewhere over below this. 3 levels of Garbhagriha and Ardha Mandapa as well as Mahamandapa is there. Then later on, these are all expanded during the Chola as well as in the Vijayanagara period. If you can see the pillars, then you can quickly understand what type of construction it is. So inside, this is how the cave looks like. You enter in the Ardha Mandapa there, you have the Mahamandapa, and from here the cave starts. Your Ardha Mandapa with the 4 pillars in between itself is a curve. You have a small Antrala and the Garbhagriha. So this entire complex is inside the mountain, like this. So you go there, and then we have 1 level, and then we have steps, and then we have the Garbhagriha. Other interesting temple is the very famous Pullayarpatti temple, which is there in Pullayarpatti, near Karaikudi. It's one of the very, very popular temple in Tamil Nadu. It's a grand one with big gopuras, which you can see here. Again, this is not a regular Garbhagriha, it is a cave temple. Interestingly, the additional point here is that this is not a temple originally for Ganesha. So this is a temple for Shiva. To see this is the layout of the carved temple, which they have done it in this way. You will be here and you will be seeing it, and you will be seeing the Ganesha. But technically, Ganesha is one of the sub deities here, and the main deity is Shiva as a Shivalinga. That is on the side. There are 4 pillars. On the side, there is a statue of a king, and there is a Harihara statue here. So the temple is meant for Shiva, and then Ganesha is installed as one of the Upadevatas. But now the temple is famous for Ganesha only, and main puja and everything is for Ganesha. Similarly, there is another temple for Lord Muruga. Tirupparamkundram, I said that it is one of the 6 Padaividus, the places where Muruga performed special acts. So Tirupparamkundram is where after winning the Asuras, he got married, and then this is a very grand temple, but again it is a cave temple. If you see the plan looks like this. This is a wide temple which is meant for Shiva, facing south or something, and then opposite Vishnu is there, and in the middle there is Sakti, on the right hand side Ganapati, and on the left hand side Lord Muruga. But now the temple is well known, and the primary puja and the crowd and everything is for Muruga temple only, and these are treated. But when you see the construction and other thing, from the primary direction and other thing, this is a temple meant for Shiva. So this is how priorities change over a period, and the worship and other patterns also change as the temple develops. Now, we are talking about Malai as a university, and we see a lot of cave temples. But again, in Malai itself, there is a huge varieties of cave temples. Because for time, shortage of time, I am just giving a brief. I have a detailed 4-part presentation on Malai caves, caves and other thing. You can see the video, or we can have a detailed session in the next training class where we talk into advanced concepts. So Malai, if you see this is the basic Dharmaraja Ratham, and then you have Koneri Mandapam with the 2 styles of pillars, and Tirumurti Mandapam with the only sanctum. There is no front mandapa. Varaha with the beautiful line pillars. Ramanuja with far more ornamentation. Mahishasuramardini with the Kapotan caves. Okay. Adivaraga temple, lot of more innovation, but closed. Panjapandava temple where they have attempted the Sandara. And Adirana Chanda temple is a later addition by Rajasimha. And we have tiger caves. We can't define that in any of the classification. So this is the collection of some of the caves. There are more. I have given only examples of some of the well-known caves. So let us see how the architecture has changed. If you see this, the pillars are basic Mahindra pillars, no ornamentation, no top, no bottom components. In Koneri, we see the roof prastara elements coming up, and the kapota coming up, and we have the putas and other things seeing, and then we have some amount of Adhisthana coming up. And this portion, they have cleverly converted this as an Upapita. If you see Tirumurti, there is only sanctum, nothing else. And then, but the sanctum has got beautiful Upapita, then it has got panel, fantastic Dharapalas, and this is a temple for 3 Tirumurtis. And here you have completed chalas and kutas available. Next is the Varaha Mandapa, where see the pillars which were planned earlier. It has developed into a beautiful pillars with lion and yali both motifs. and fantastic panels inside. You also see the prastara well developed with kutas, and you see the basement on bottom. The Ramanuja Mandapa takes it to the next level with a beautiful attic, and then they were trying to do it in two-tier also. Now coming to Mahishasuramartini, they have tried to do something, but still it is unfinished. One of the pillars were damaged, and which was later replaced by a simple Rudraganda type of a pillar. Here in Adivaraga temple, you can see the Hara portion clearly well developed. There is one more cave called Panchapandava caves. Here we can see this is just next to the Great Penance. Here the Hara is well developed. The Adhisthana they had tried. Another interesting thing, if you can see inside, is that they had tried to create a Sandara, that is, under the Vimana, they have tried to create a circumambulatory path starting from here and starting from there. So on both sides, they have gone up to the end and it has not been completed. This Adharana Chanda Mandapa is another variation during Rajasimha period. The final interesting thing is the Tiger Caves. How do you classify this? Is it a cave, or it is a stadium, or it is a pedestal, or a puja mandapa? So it has got different varieties, different poses of yalis, and one of the masterpieces of Rajasimha. So after cave temples, they also tried out monolithic things, which is unique in Tamil Nadu. This is the only place available and only place where Pallavas tried it. And after that, when they moved over to the structural temples, this kind of a development started. So, but if you see this, almost all combination of bases, and then your shikaras, and then your arrangement of Sala, Kuta, and in the Hara, and the number of components in the vertical columns, everything they have tried in the 9 monolithic cutouts. Let us see one by one. We have 9, Valayankuttem, Nagara Square, and then Pidari, Draupadi Ratha in one complex. These two are in a separate location. Draupadi, Nakula, Arjuna Ratham, and Bhima Ratham, and Dharmaraja Ratham are in one place in together. And we have Ganesha Ratham is a separate one. Finally, Pandyas also tried to do a similar one, but they stopped. It is a grand and largest one, but the work stopped up to the Prasara coming from top, and then beyond that, it has not been progressed. So let us see one by one quickly. So the Valayankutte Ratham has got a Nagara spire, Ekatala, and this is how they have developed it, and the development stopped in between and then finished. Pidari Ratha, same story, Dravida, Aktakanchikara, 2 Tala, and it is complete only up to this portion, others are just outline, they are not done. Draupadi Ratha is a 4-part Kutakara, where it is like a hut or pudisai in temple. And this is one of the complete, nice, well-finished temples because it has been completely finished from top to bottom. The Nakula Sakadeva Ratha is a Vesara Ratha, apsidal, and it has got two talas here. The next one, Arjuna Ratha, is a Dravida Octagon Shikara with the 2 talas. You can see 2 prastaras, 2 talas. And with beautiful Salapati and then Karnapati. And instead of Kumbha Panjara and other things that was coming up later, this is full of sculptures. The next one is the Bhima Ratha. This is like your wagon roof. This is Salakaram. like your gopurams and other things, large thing, and with two major arches on the side. There also they had tried Sandara portion around the Vimana, but due to some cracks developing here, they have stopped the work in the ground portion. The fine, beautiful temple of Pallavas is this Dharmarajaratha, where they have tried 3 tiers, and then they have tried the 3-tier kind of sanctums, three sanctums here with pathways in the first and second layer. The fact of Dharmaraja, Bhimaraja and other things are names given at a later period of time. Normally, this would have been for the Panchayatana kind of worship. This is for Shakti, and this is for Ganapati, and this is for Muruga, and this is for Vishnu, and this is for Shiva. That is possible. But since we don't have deities in between in the temples, we are only guessing. The final one, Ganesharatha, is again a Shiva temple, which is a complete Salakara temple. And you can see then the Kushinasika on the side with the beautiful artwork. The Pandya temple is at Vitwan Koil. Even though it is unfinished, the portion that is finished is very beautiful with a 8-part Dravida Shikara. So this is how the monolithic portion happened in Pallavas. After this, during Rajasimha Pallavan period, they started experimenting with structural temples. His father Parameshwarama tried it, and we have got one temple in Kuram where it is an obsidian temple, and up to the basement it is done in granite. After that, I think this has been demolished and is given in brick and mortar. If you see the first usage of structural stone, that is Kuram, but first complete temple available in granite is the Malay Shore Temple Complex, where you have 2 temples. This is in the seashore, where we have a small cave temple in this called Narasimha Simha Pallava Graham, which was done during his father's time, Simha Pallava period. This is a reclining Vishnu temple. Around that, this is a small hill kind of a thing. Around that, in the granite base, they have built 2 more temples. One is the Rajasimheswaram with 3 and Kshatriya Simheswaram with 5 talas. These are the standards for the temples that are coming in future up to 16th, 17th century. So the structure, the component arrangement of salas, putas, and then tiers, design, everything has not changed much. We also have a small Vesara temple, full Vesara temple, a circular base to the circular top inside the pond available here. It's just only a sample. And this is the basement of the Balipida and the Mahamandapa and everything, where only we find only the base remains and not the complete mandapa, which would have been destroyed during wave action or due to salt content, it could have crumbled. So what we are looking here is the oldest structural stone temple in Tamil Nadu. Next. From here, almost the construction activity in Mahabalipuram stops, and after that, no major new construction happens during Pallava period. So Rajasimha shifts focus to Kanchi, and then he builds a grand temple, a unique temple which has not been replicated till now in its kind of a classic features available. This is the Kanchi Kailasanatha temple, a collection of architecture architectural marvels and then sculptural marvels and design as well as other spiritual activities. One of a kind temple. So like a normal temple here, this is the first Sandara temple where there is a path inside the Vimana to circumambulate around the Tarpagraha. So this is the first Sandara temple in worship. You have before that Dharmaraja Ratha also as a attempted Sandara, but it is not in worship. So this is the first, it has got the first Gopura, which we discussed on the other time. This is the first Gopura here. And then it has got a Padma Malika of 65 small miniature temples with beautiful sculptures covering Shiva Purana and various forms of Shiva. And this is where the Rajasimha introduced the leaping lion kind of a pillar. So earlier pillars were having only crouching lion or sitting lion. Here it is a leaping lion shown as the virility or the dynamic nature of this. Another interesting feature is that the corner Karna Kutas, the Karnapati and the Salaipati here, instead of in line with the temple, it has been extended way out of the temple to have its own small mini temples. So this has got how much? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 extra small temples around it, which increases the base and stability. So this is the Malikas you see here. Each one is a complete temple by itself, containing all the components and the artwork. The right side as well as the left side view. The mandapa we see here is a new addition. You can see from the pillar types itself. So this itself will take you one full day to go through in a very, very compact pace. So this is one example, Kandaharmia or the small temple looks like. See the amount of ornamental work and the structure and other things. If you see the architectural part, you can see the base in granite. The entire temple is built in sandstone. That's why so much of corroding and reworking. But the basement, if you see the bottommost thing, it is granite slab. Again, after the Adhisthana, after the Kandapada, the final Pattiga is not sandstone, again granite to take the load of this. And some of the work here is on again sandstone, so that the load is light. And then sandstone is easy to work and then playable. That's why they had taken it. But the other challenge is that it is easy to corrode also. So this is one of a kind temple, which they have tried to replicate in many places, like the Virupaksha temple and in Kailasanatha temple in Ellora. But again, this remains a one of a kind temple. So these are all some of the replicas of the Kanji Kailasanatha temple. This one is in Panamalai, where they have the same thing like Kandaharmaya temple. I used to call them broad gauge temples because instead of this being a sleek temple, they have extended all the four sides and made it very broad so that the base is strong and stability is there. So this is in Panamalai, where the four corners alone, the cardinal directions have been extended from here into separate mini shrines all the way up to the top. The same thing has been replicated during very, very late Pallava period in Tiruvadigai with a lot more ornamentation, and this has been renovated recently and with a lot of color paints. See the detailed ornamentation in the foundation as well as in the first level Sala, Kuta and other structures. Next, what we are going to see is the Ashtanga Vimanas. This is the apartment of gods where the god lives in three things, more like a duple house or like a triple house, where Vishnu in three forms, in sitting form, sleeping form, and then standing form. So, like in a house where in ground floor we sit down and discuss. First floor is usually for sleep. Second floor is for view and then discussion and other. The same kind of a concept. I don't know. We have the structure is followed like this. For Shiva, this structure was implemented in Malay Dharmarajaratham first. For Vishnu, this is followed by in Kanchipuram during Nandivarma period. This is Vaikundha Perumal temple. First and most structured Ashtanga Vimana. Second in the series by Nandivarma, he replicated that and expanded. Instead of having only one temple, they have expanded it on all four sides, having additional temples. We have several such temples later on replicated all over Tamil Nadu. The next one is Tirukoshiur near Karaikudi and Madurai Kudalalagar and Mannar Koil Rajagopalam Sannidhi, Cheran Mahadevi in Ramasamy temple, and then in Chennai, Tirunirmalai to a certain extent can be called as Ashtanga Vimana. We also have the latest concrete example by Dakshinamurti Sthapati sir, who replicated the Uttaramerur Sundara Varada Vimana of Vishnu, and the same thing has been concentrated as Ashtalakshmi Vimana this is in Chennai Besant Nagar. If you see the features, the three layers, you have a path here, whereas in Kanji Vaikundha Perumal, this is in the upper Vimanas are in Sudai, and it has got a structure of three temples here. And Uttaramerur, this is expanded on all the four sides. In Tirukoshiur, the porch alone is extended in a grand way in the forward facing direction. But most of the other temples, the major viewpoint in this temple, unique thing about Vaikundha Perumal is the stairs for going to the first floor, second floor is inside the Vimana structure, Garbhagriha structure itself. It is part of the Sandhara. But many of the later temples took the easiest way out, and the access to the first floor, second floor is from the mandapa through the side. You can see this in the Madurai Kudalalagar. The access to the second floor is from outside. And then Mannar Koil, you can clearly see the stairs from here going, and from there it is going into the next floor. So this is a easy structural way, where it is the most complex temple. Here also, the Cheran Mahadev temple also, see the stairs going on in the mandapa side, not inside the Vimana. So this is how Ashtanga Vimana looks like. Let us see internally how they have constructed the pillars and other structures in this component. Okay. So when you talk about the temple, the first inner wall encloses the three shrines right up to the ceiling of shrine 3. So this is how it is done. So level 1, there is a sitting post. This is like your drawing room where we sit down and discuss. Second level is the bedrooms, the reclining posts. This is built one on top of other. Third level is the viewing platform where the standing posts. Then after that, there is a empty balcony or attic. And then on top of it, your octagonal shikara is there. So this is the vertical tower which is available on the central portion. Around this, there is also a second wall which covers the prakara of the first shrine and which works out as a open platform. This is covering the prakara and the sandhara of the shrine 1. and it also becomes a open base platform for the level 1. Then in the third shrine, this wall encloses the outer prakara, and this works as the outer prakara for level 1, and then it raises up to level 2. So you have 3 concentric layers structured one inside other to make this happen. All this is done using granite in a structured way, and up to this is granite, and after that this is brick and mortar. So this is the complexity that the apartment complexes which was built during the 8th century by Pallavas. What you are seeing is a sky view of the Parameshwara Vishnu Graham. That is how this is the view from Vaikuntham. So this is the entrance, and this is where the outer Prakara Madhya, where the historical sculptures highlighting the entire lineage of Pallavas is sculptured. And you cross this and go into Ardhamandapa, and this is the main Vimana. You can see the pathway around first level, and then the pathway into second level. This is a straight view. If you can look at the side, then you get a better idea. You can see that the prakara and the lion pillars, and then this is the ground floor, and this is the path connecting the mandapa to the Ardha Mandapa. And the stairs are on the back side. Once you climb the stairs, you come inside the first floor, and then you can come around circumambulatory path in the first floor. This is the Sandara, and this is the Alindam open pathway. And second floor also we have a separate open way, and then there is a terrace. Here they are not using the internal pathway. They are using a rope to ladder, aluminum ladder to climb on top. The fourth chamber has been closed now. So this is how tiered temples were structured during Pallava times. And this is the only one specimen which has remained unchanged from 8th century till now. They are not touched the major structure here. This section is as it is from Pallava times. Now finally, to cap up the presentation, let us have a recall on how the structural engineering innovations the Pallavas have done during their stint from 600 to 850, the 250 years. They started with cut-in caves. Okay. This can be extended only up to a certain level and cannot be done in a major way. It is a pain, and then it is not a scalable solution. So the next one they tried is the monoliths, where like Malay Dharmaraja, they cut out all the extraneous portions, challenges in load bearing and other things. So that they tried out 3-tier Ashtanga Vimana in rock, solid rock. So there are passages here in 2 levels, and then there were alindams which we saw in the earlier one. But it is a tough job, and calculation, single miscalculation, and you are out. There is no scope for correction, because even before we start cutting here, you need to have the entire plan readily with you. So the next option is using cut granite blocks to structure it. This is what they tried in Malay Shore temple. So this entire structure is structured in cut granite blocks, or blocks put in here and then converted into sculptures. The challenge is the entire module. Yes, the entire module is granite, and then it is heavy. To handle this, we need to have a proper base and alignment, otherwise the entire structure will collapse. So as this is a simple temple and very slender, you can't raise beyond this. So what they did as a next level innovation is that instead of having the entire thing as granite, they kept up to the prastara level in granite, and after that the superstructure part in a brick and mortar. So that will reduce the weight and load on the base structure. So that is another innovation. Then what they tried is into the pedestal type of temple, where instead of having the hara from the Adhisthana, they have one level of Biti as a Aditala, which is filled. It is not open like a mandapa, it is fully filled, and they built the temple from the first floor. So that is another way. This was started in Chola period as Mada Koils at a later point of time, and this was expanded into a different class of temples by itself. But again, the load bearing capacity and other things is better because your foundation is full as one entire floor is your foundation. The next innovation is the Kandaharmia, where instead of the temple being a square, they increase the base area by extending the three sides into three separate substrates. Okay, on this back and then two sides, they extended into small temple. This temple is the extended temple is called Kandaharmia, so that the temple base is broader and you will be able to go higher. This is the model adopted in the Panamalai Thalagirishwara temple, which we saw earlier. Again, this is only can do only so much. So the next level of innovation in engineering is in Kanchi Kailasanatha temple, instead of extending only on the cardinal direction, they extended on the corners also. Four corners also they extended, and then they added two more here. So as you enter, you have two major corner things, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Kandaharmiyas surrounded. So the base is becoming broader and then firmer. So this is the broad gauge kind of an temple. Another innovation done here is that instead of having one common wall here, which takes the load of the Vimana, here we have two walls, one outer wall and one inner wall, and there is a passage in between. So these two walls join after the prastara and then join into a single wall. This means that the load of the Vimana is split into two walls, and then it has got a better stability. Then the next innovation we just now saw is that instead of trying to have one available sanctum, they had multiple sanctums within the same structure itself. So this involved complex structuring, and then they have stopped up to 3, and then they are not experimented beyond 3. Maybe organic constructions are they were more comfortable in building bigger temples than this type of complex temples. So finally, the pinnacle of engineering is the Mahameru temple. This is your big temple where it's a hollow, and then it has got two levels of Aditalas, and then you have two Sandharas. We will see this in detail when we come to the Chola session also. So the crux of the Sandhara is this. The weight, entire weight of the Vimana is split into these two walls with a Sandhara passage in. So if you see this and this, the Sandhara passage is only only at one level. In Ashtanga Vimana, it is at 2 levels, whereas here in big temple, this is at 2 levels, and the lingam is also coming up to 1 full floor height. This handles pressure in a different way. So this is how the engineering aspects of the temple building got innovated, and then they were trying to build bigger, wider, and taller temples. with the change in materials and the change in building techniques and by doing compositions. So this beautiful innovations by Pallavas were later continued by Cholas into grand temples. This we will see tomorrow. Until now, thank you. A few points. A lot of questions will be there on the Ashtanga Vimanas. I have a separate presentation for Ashtanga Vimanas on the Vaikuntha Perumal temple. You can see this video. I will share the link. That will talk a great detail about Vaikuntha Perumal temple. And I have several videos, a series of videos on Mahabalipuram. All this is available in my Facebook as well as in YouTube channel. You can subscribe and see to that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir. Here is a really wonderful session again for all of us. And same type, many questions are there in our chat box. Because जैसे जैसे अच्छा नॉलेज मिल रहा है, लोगों का क्यूरियोसिटी और ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है और क्वेश्चंस भी बढ़ रहे ऐसा लग रहा है.
Yeah, when you are having too much of information, you don't have time to ask questions. You are focused on absorbing the information and trying to see this. A short period of time, I am trying to give maximum data so that you understand the complexities. And half of it, even if you don't understand now, if you relook at it second time, it will be far more clear. It is like a good reference video. This is always comfortable to go back to the video or take notes in a leisurely way and then you can absorb more information. So let us see some questions. Sorry, it took a little longer because this is all customized based on some of the questions asked during the introduction session. They wanted to focus on some of the engineering aspects, structural aspects, what kind of materials used. Hope I have addressed some of the aspirations of the people who wanted some customization. Let us see.
Yes, sir, it's our pleasure. हमने एक आंख मांगी थी और आपने दो दे दिए.
Thank you. Cool. So there are some questions. I'm sorry, Mallai means Mahabalipuram. Yes, we are used to call it as Mallai, and again it's 6. I'm sorry about that. Mahabalipuram. Again, Mahabalipuram is not the right name. It is a very, very later period name. Kadal Mallai was there mentioned in Pasurams in old. So the history books, they stick to Mallai, not the Mahabalipuram. Who embalmed is mirror image? Sneha has asked a question, mirror image of swastika on the coin. That is a swastika. I don't know whether it is a mirror image or taken in a clip or something. It is a swastika. Swastika is one of the 8 auspicious symbols in Hindu things. And then these auspicious symbols are defined for God, different type of gods, and for kings also. So this seal contains all the auspicious symbols recommended for kings. Also the symbols of the kings whom he has already conquered. Vijay Lagate, Kailash temple and Ellora is a monolithic rock type. Yes, that is the ultimate temple in monolithic art. And to a certain extent, it is a replica of Mahabalipuram or the Kailasanatha temple in Kanchipuram, and some refinements over Mallikarjuna temple in Pattadakal. That's why I have given it as an exercise to mark your components of a Dravida temple. TK, practical question. Can we visit temples? Are they open in public? In Tamil Nadu, they have 3 zones. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. Zone 3 consists of Chennai city and its surrounding three districts. So in these four districts, temples are open from today. So if you are there, Mahabalipuram is open now, Kanchipuram is open. So whoever want to can visit and maintain social distance from God. Okay, so that we don't give corona to God. Kudumiyan Malai has the earliest music instrument. Thanks for pointing it out. I deliberately didn't want to go into this. Kudumiyan Malai is the entire temple wall is full of inscriptions and a special one for musical. Again, there is a debate whether it is Mahendra Pallava or somebody else, but it has got extensive musical notes. From where the tradition of having a pond near temple began. In other countries, we don't them as an essential feature. Primarily, if you see the evolution of temples, most of the temples were either non-veg temples in caves where Bali and other things used to happen in earlier time. When the people shifted over to the river side, the temples were on river side. Okay, the concept of ablution and other related water related stuff is happening. Situations where there is no river and other things, they used to have a water body nearby, which is the pond. The pond is not for temple alone. That is in many situations a clean water source for the entire community itself, and it has got lot of water storage as well as the water conservation structures, which comes from canals and then filters. Some of the old temples like Bragadiswara and others have got moat around it, the outer prakaras. What was there any particular reason to have temples inside caves? The caves are still there in the back of the brain. It has not left the brain. They have been living since ages in caves. So your longest period of living is not in your concrete house. They have been living in caves for 100,000 years. So that is there, still there in brain. Even after coming back to plains, they went back to caves for doing this kind of temple. There is one possible reason. The other trick is that the cave temples were earlier done, and then they built structured temples around it to become a bigger complex. There is another angle. Is Siyamangalam temple part of an Agrahara? Since the temple Mangalam used in nomenclature, I think this is slightly out of question. Mangalam, Sadrivedi Mangalam is a Agraharam where it is given as a donation to Brahmins. Maybe I will check on the actual name and find out and respond to it offline. I think there was a longer Sadrivedi Mangalam kind of a name for Siyamangalam. I'll check it up and refer back to you. Siddharth, Tirupparangundaram is a two-story temple where we have one set of shrines below and one set other. Basically, it is not a shrine. This is a cave temple and more structure built around that. On the top, we have this the Shiva, Vishnu, and Subramanya, Ganapati, and Durga cave on the top. On the bottom, there are other sets of Tawai, the mother god, and several other statues in the lower caves. Now, we have a structure covering all these things, and then unless you look sharply, you won't be able to find out traces of any caves there. Thanks, Giri. I was planning to put a slide on a list of cave temples which have been converted into full-fledged temples. Somehow I missed that, and I just put pictorial slide on only Siyamangalam and Pillarpatti as well as Tiruparamkundram. There are a lot of old caves which are converted or expanded into full-fledged temples. Namakkal Caves is one such that is built by vassals of Pallavas during 8th century. Similarly, you have Singaperumal Koil and your Vattakadai Narasimha temple. All these temples are actually technically cave temples with 1 or 2 layers inside, and which has been covered by later period mandapas. Another interesting question from Sneha: is there any Ardhanariswara rock cut temple in South India? There is no rock cut temple for that, but sculptures are there in many of the rock cut temples. Okay. Question pending for last 3 days from Anita. Did they have any plan of temple on display? Did the record stating date of construction and noted it somewhere? Not to my knowledge. In many situations, we don't know who built the temple. Like most of the Pallava temples, we guess and then we come to a oblique conclusion because Pallava kings used the Birudas, the titles in some of the inscription. The funny part is the same Biruda is used by his son and his grandson and 2 generations away. So there is a confusion. Again, there is no plan or the record stating it, but the Agama Shastras clearly mention all the measurements, how to build the temple in very, very specific terms. That itself is a definition where the Sapati decides on a plan based on this. But there are many Shudra Vimanas. Shudra Vimana means replicas of small Vimanas, where it is displayed in your great penance in the Sakula Nagadeva temple. If you remember about the types of shikaras which we were discussing in the class 2, there was a type of 6-faced Dravida Vimana. But we don't see it in real life because it is difficult to structure. But we see a replica of a 6-faced Dravida Vimana as a Shudra Vimana in the Nakula Sakateva Ratha in Mahabalipuram. Like that, there are very good miniature plans of Vimanas available. Hope this question can be closed, Anita. But the data of construction and other things is not there. If you want to see the perfect documentation of temple building, it was Konark. Konark has got the far more detailed structure documentation which is available for any temple. So we can, I have done one presentation on how Konark was built and what was the documentation for that. That video is also available. You can see that to understand the things in detail. Sneha Patwardhan, an interesting question. Why there are pillars on stairs? So this is a later period Nayakar mischief where they tried to build a mandapa on top of it and it stopped in between. And it is for Draupadi only. Dr. Lakshmi Ramasamy asked, carving from top to bottom in Kalugumalai is similar to Kailasanatha temple. All monolithic temples are carved from top to bottom, where they cut out starting from Shikara and then slowly come down. That is why if you see the monolithic temples in Mahabalipuram also, the top portion is well developed and then the bottom is semi-finished. Nayanthara, Mahabalipuram or nearby was a port city. There was a river mouth Palar just another 10 kilometers away. So that would have been the major port city. PK, any reference on how long it took for these two temples? No thing. Tanjore temple, they say that it took around 8 to 9 years to build. Konark temple took 12 years. But some of the other temples are not built in one stretch. They were actually expanded over the years. So when it comes to renovation, when they convert the brick temple into a granite temple, it would have taken 4 to 5 years for the entire thing to complete, minimum. The Nayanthara question, the sandstone, I think it was available nearby in Tondamandalam country itself. So that's why they had done it. Dr. Lakshmi Ramasamy, interesting question. How two different types of stones are put together? They were not joined. They were put one top of other, and then the weight of the above portion takes care of the joint. Vijay Lagata made a very, very beautiful observation regarding Ashtanga temples. Stairs are a monstrosity or stand out, and then it spoils the beauty of the balance of the temple. Sirkadi is not an Ashtanga Vimana, it is like a pedestal type of Vimana, where the front Shiva temple is a later period development. Okay, and on back of the Shiva temple, there is a big mound, first level, solid mound. On top of it, first layer, the Shiva temple is there, Dhoniapur's temple is there. Okay, the second level Prakara is primarily one of the Griva Kostas worshipped as Virabhadra, Satyanadar. So it is technically a Mada Koil and not an Ashtanga Vimana. Sirgadi is also commanded. Okay, Kanchi, first landing available to walk. Kanchi Vaikunta temple, yes, we can walk on the first landing, but it is open on all the Ekadasi days. In the morning, 7 or 8 to 12 noon. It is available only on Ekadasi days. There will be a big queue. So thank you for all the appreciation. So many thank yous. And can you give us detail of your rock cut and monolith series? I will share it on the Malay. Some of them are in Tamil. I will share it separately. If you subscribe to my YouTube, there is a series called of only my presentation that lists around 25 to 30 presentations. You can browse through that.
Babu sir, Nageshwara, good evening.
Yes, sir.
It is an excellent presentation. I have fully enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
And
that is an appreciation coming from a national level guide who has been doing mentoring of these temples for ages. My age is his experience. Pranam, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir, a small suggestion regarding the Parameswara Vinnagaram, Vaikunta Perumal temple.
Yes.
When we request the ASI people, which is close to by, they allow us to go to the upstairs. You got my point?
Yeah.
Vaikunta Perumal, when we request them, they allow us.
Yeah, that is for special people like you, but not for general ones like us. Next time we will definitely take you along, and then when you request, they will definitely allow.
Yeah. Because that conservation assistant is a very nice person, Dr. Rama Rao, who always helpful to us.
Sure,
and
sure.
Another second request, can I go through all your presentations again? Any link is there available? I would like to listen leisurely.
Yes, it is available in our group, sir. You can go through it.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Okay,
Yes,
sir. All
most
the
welcome,
best.
most welcome.
God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.
I will explain to you how to view the video offline. And then
Please. Thank you, sir.
Right.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Sure. Vanajakshi is saying that earlier I focused on Rashtrakuta, Kalyana Chalukya, and now presentation got huge information about Pallava, Chola, and structural. And then also known about so many temples of Tamil Nadu. Yay, thank you. Objective achieved. So finally, Bhujang sir, the objective of the entire session is achieved. Thank you for this feedback. This is what we were hoping to highlight. Let the people outside Tamil Nadu know about the beauty of Tamil Nadu temples. And that is what we have tried. I think we are fairly successful to a great extent. Ramakrishna, yes, sir. So definitely this is a good feedback. So we will try to do a similar exploration on Kerala as well as Karnataka temples later. Ramakrishna Aital want to know about Sittanavasal cave. Sittanavasal, yes, again, awareness, we need to do more presentations like this to make Sittanavasal well known. Its paint has not faded. It is not like our Asian or Nerolac paint. They did it in somewhere around 7th century. Still, it is bright. So that is the secret and how they are done it. So beautiful, more appreciations. Thank you all. Interlocking, yes. Interlocking was used in some of the structures, and there are some binding also done. In some of the larger temples, like Tanjore Big Temple, it was pure interlock and no binding. Bindu Subramani, logistical question. The tons of stones and dust removed from monolithic temple like Kailasa is not found nearby. That is a mystery. Probably the government at that time sold it as a ballast to aliens, and then they have taken it for laying roads. We don't know. So when we find roads in Mars, then we will say that yes, this is from Ellora. We don't know. It's a mystery. Madhuchanda Majumdar, no modern instrument. What type of instruments they were trying to use? Say they were plain, they were using chisel and hammer and human effort, and then they were using nature to leverage on many of the splitting. The splitting of rock is they put a series of grooves, and then they put dry branches inside and then put water. When it expands, automatically it cleaves the stone. So this is one of the basic technologies which people have been using all over the world. So good, lot of questions. That means that there is some amount of
yes.
gaps in the presentation.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
So yes, thank you, sir.
There is
Thank you.
always
Thank
time
you.
available in the WhatsApp to continue. And
Yes.
tomorrow is the last day. So whoever has not done the notes and other things, notes is for us to understand whether whatever we are presenting is going and getting absorbed in the right way. Okay, so that's why we are asking for notes and feedback in the classes. So let us have the final session tomorrow, and then we can take it from there. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good night. Yes.
Good night.